What's up, everybody? I'm here with an absolute record breaker. I'm here with Keith Fraley, owner of Tint Genius. I think the name is pretty on brand, man. Is that safe to say? Especially considering what you've accomplished.
Absolutely. Well, the name is actually something that I've used in other companies. It's not my first rodeo. It's my first film rodeo. But
Right.
So Genius is Genius Brands, and I have several companies with that name. But it just means we do it really, really well.
Well, if I may, for people who are not too familiar with Keith and with your work, I mean, you came into this industry, you came into the windows industry knowing nothing, absolutely green, and you built your business to $1 million in its first year.
Well, I think that's what helped me, the fact that I was green. Because one of the things that I found when I looked at this industry and I started talking to people, a lot of folks in this industry they're not doing it the way that I believe you should be doing it if you're trying to scale a large business. They're doing it from an entrepreneurship level, which is fine and is great, and I believe in entrepreneurship. But if you want to build a bigger business versus a small business, it's a totally separate mentality. The way that you got to think, the way that you got to approach it, that's what kind of makes it different. So my background, I didn't have background in the film industry, but I have scaled several businesses. I've been in business for myself since my early 20s, and I know I don't look it, but I'm 46 now, so.
And I'm excited because you are going to step on stage at this year's growth conference, and you're going to talk about, you're going to give a little taste today. We're going to talk a little bit about it today, but you're going to talk about that shift between, a seven-figure mindset, right? The difference between the entrepreneur and the business owner. But let me ask you, why do you feel like you were able to accomplish that huge goal? Some people, they dedicate their whole career towards that and they struggle to get there. Why do you feel that you were able to do that in your first year?
The reason I was able to do it in my first year because I made it easy. When I say I made it easy, it wasn't easy, but it was easy. And let me explain that. Because of the way that I think and the way that I look at how to conduct and build a business. It's all about the mindset. So if you open a business and you say, well, I'm going to do it this way because this is where I'm at. Okay, I only have a certain amount of money, so I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Okay, you're setting yourself up, right? Mm-hmm. I believe that you have to, and I shared this with you a little earlier, is you have to act as if. Act as if you already have. Act as if you already have $1 million tent shop and you got cars hanging down the road. How would you set your business up then? And do as much as you can. Now, I know everybody doesn't have unlimited resources. That's not what I mean. Right. But you have to have that mentality. That's how you deal with hiring people. That's how you deal with handling your customers. See, a business owner that has a multi-million-dollar shop with cars hanging down the road, he treats his customers different than a guy who's thinking, man, if I don't tint this car today, I'm not going to be able to eat. But if you act as if, you'll have it. And so that's what made me successful. I acted as if. From day one, like I told you, everything you saw in my shop, that was day one. Before I had tinters, before I knew how we was going to get a single customer, I already knew what I wanted it to be.
So let me ask you about that, because we just got done doing a quick little tour, and your shop is like spotless, extremely clean. You have technically 2 storefronts over there. We're in a different spot here where you do PPF. How did you get the vision, or how did you get the idea to design and put the showroom the way it is and cater to your customers the way it is, or even have the peel boards the way they are? Like, where did you get the ideas and concepts?
Well, some of the concepts, it came from, I talked to a lot of different shop owners, across the country.
So you studied the success.
I studied success, and I also studied the failures. Actually, I studied both. I studied success, I studied the failures, and I took some things from some places, added my own, and also combined my years and years experience in marketing. It's simple, man. You just got to think from a customer's perspective. I looked at it like, what's missing? I'm a tint guy. That's how I decided to get involved with tint. I always got my vehicles tinted. Now, I wasn't a tinter, but I was a tint customer. Every shop that I went to, most of them was kind of hole in the wall. At most, it would have a table, chairs, some old magazines, very uncomfortable, right? Mm-hmm. That was what everybody was doing. And I was like, why? And I even, when I was talking to other tent owners who were quote unquote advising me on how to put a shop together, and I said, hey, I want a really nice waiting room. I wanted to have some room. And they said, why would you do that? It's like, hey, you got to put your money in the shop. Your waiting room doesn't make you any money. Why does it have to be so nice? That's not important. And I felt they were wrong because it's very important. All right. You know, customer experience to me is a lot of times more important than the product. You can go to a restaurant and the food is terrible. If they treat you right, if they take care of it, you'll give them another shot. You know what I mean?
100%. And you said earlier you had people coming in assuming you're a franchise already.
They went there because I set it up. Like I say, I act as if. So from day one, I was like, what if this is a franchise? What if this is $1 million company? How would it be set up? How would my paint be? You know what I mean? How would my floors be? How would my table be if I was a runaway success? So that's the way I did everything, you know, from day one.
And I mean, that's going to set you up for the future too, because I know that obviously you're going to expand. You're still expanding. We were talking off camera about some of the projects you got going on, and I can't wait until you start dipping in and actually you decide like now is the time and go full force ahead, because I think you're going to break some more records. But you know, with that being said, it seems like you have a system in play. You have the design, and your branding is it's immaculate. You know, the branding's on point. So how long did it take you to come up with all this stuff? You said it was all from day one. But let me ask you this, like, better question. What was the hardest part about that whole process? The brand, the setup, the layout, the employees, the trainings. Like, what was the hardest part about all this?
Well, I give it to you like this, right? So, for example, everything that you just pointed out, all those bullet points, right? Maybe that was 5, 6, 7. Let's say that was 10 things. Okay, I had those things on a list, and I just got them done. And I didn't delay them. I didn't say, here's the biggest problem. It does take some time. It does take some effort. But one of the things that most people struggle with is they don't believe that those things need to be done today because of where they are today. And I try to make people understand. And one of the things that I know from years and years in business, if you don't do these things today, there may not be a tomorrow for you to do it. You only have one time to make a first impression. So if you say, well, because of where I am, I'm going to do it this way. Okay, well, who's to say you're ever going to be around to do it another way? So it took some time, but, you know, there are resources and there are things don't cost as much as people think. I give you a prime example. My waiting room has granite countertops, right? Granite. People like, man, you put granite, it costs this much. I'm going to give you a trade secret. I went to Floor and Decor. They had a slab of granite on clearance. It cost me $200. And it was about this wide. And if you look at my waiting room, I have a bar that's about this wide and a counter's about that wide. It's the same piece of granite. I got a wet saw from Lowe's, cost me $35. And we got in the back of the shop on the ground and we sawed it in half. I went on Etsy and I bought the stands for the counter. And it looks at my shop, it just looks like it costs a lot of money. You got to be resourceful. You got to use your head. There are ways to do things, and that's all we did.
And going back to your branding too, you know, when you walk into the waiting room, you trust the brand, you trust the installer, you trust the customer service and sales is just immaculate. It's really dialed in. So now your perceived value is higher. So now people are willing to spend more with you.
Absolutely.
Right? So those big ticket items, it's possible for you. I have I've visited a lot of shops, and I know you've definitely visited a lot of shops too, especially when you're studying. And man, you know, if someone struggles to get that ceramic tint or struggles to increase their tint size by $100, $200, $300, or maybe they want to add $500 to their average ticket, man, you can't really do that if you don't have a great showroom. Right. What are your thoughts on that? If someone is trying to struggle to get the value of their customers higher, like, would you start with the showroom? Would you start with the customer service? Would you start with the sales?
Well, as far as where you would start, you want to try to do is most of these things, as many of these things as you can simultaneously. So before we even go any further, this is, people watching this may rethink this. It comes back to money too, right? Like how much capital do you have to invest? Because some things kind of cost more than others. I gave you an example a couple of minutes ago of how, you know, I got granite countertops on the clearance rack, things like that. So you got to make smart decisions like that over and over and over and over again. Right, you talked about branding. What typically is branding? Okay, start with a logo. Some guys don't even have a logo. But I mean, you can literally get a logo for less than $100. There are all kind of freelancers online do some awesome logos. So we're not talking about crazy money, right? So you got to do what you can, but you got to have the capacity of mind to know, hey, you know what looks good and what doesn't. You know what I mean? You know what
Right.
looks, I don't want to say half-ass, but half-ass, right? So you have got to do what's within your budget, and I challenge people to stress that, man. You got to take some risk. If there's no risk, there's no reward. It is not going to be comfortable for you to do something great. What I mean by comfortable, no, you're not just going to have all this money put to the side that's ready to invest in business and your wife's not going to get mad at you. No, if you want to do something that has huge upside, bro, you're gonna have to lay it on the line. You gotta have belief in yourself. You gotta dig deep. You gotta spend money. You gotta take a chance. And if you take the chance, you'll get the result. So, no, I got a little off track, but to your question, I would say all of it is important. No, I can't say that, okay, just start with your customer service and don't have a decent showroom. Decide what that means to you. I mean, if you're a smaller shop, you know what I mean? Whatever you have, man, just make sure it's classy. Make sure it's polished, because people won't spend higher tickets if they feel like you're not deserving of it. What's deserving of it? I give you an example. Let's say you're a mechanic, right? And you work at the Mercedes dealership. And when people come to that Mercedes dealership, they pay a premium for your services. But that same guy, if he comes to your house and he lays in your yard and do it, he can't charge the same. And I know people will argue with me. They'll say, Keith, it's the same mechanic. He's doing the work. Right. But it's not just about the work. It's the same mechanic, but it's not the same experience. People don't have the same feeling. They don't have the same trust. Same mechanic in your yard versus at the Mercedes dealership. I'll give you some differences. He does it in my yard. He's on the side. Guess what? If he makes a mistake, my car catch on fire, I'm not sure he's going to be able to replace it. But when I'm at the Mercedes dealership and I'm paying a premium, I know no matter what happens, I'm going to be taken care of. So those things matter. But the problem is, in this industry, a lot of people only focus on the installation side. Okay, if you do a great job, you're this, you should be able to grow. It's just not true, because that's only a part of a person's purchasing decision. The product or service, that is a very important part, but that is only one part. There are other things that go into it. What's my experience? How they make me feel? What's my comfort level? All of this stuff equates to the value of that product or service. In my shop, I don't know if you noticed, my customers never meet the tenders. They don't interact with the tenders at all.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
At no point do they ever interact with my tenders. But guess what? I guarantee you, my tenders probably get more tips than any other shop where the tender's in the people's face every single day. Because it's the experience. They didn't have to deal with the guy who's doing the work. They're overall, and guess what? They tip before they ever get in the car. My checkout process is before the car comes around. So they're already happy giving tips, and they haven't even seen the tint job. So how in the world could it be about the tint?
100%. It's the experience. No, that's great. So you're getting the tips before the customer ever gets the service done.
Before they ever get the service done.
It's exactly what you said. How could it be? Wow, it's experience.
That's what we call it. That's why we call it the Tint Genius Experience. What's the Tint Genius Experience? How were you greeted on the phone? How were you taken through the sales process? How was your waiting? All of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
The tint, hey, my guys have been trained, certified. They do a phenomenal job on window film. We use one of the best films available in the industry with the best warranty, but it's the total experience that we give our customer. That's kind of what sets us apart.
If it looks cheap, you attract a cheap customer.
Absolutely.
If it looks expensive, you're going to attract a customer that's will want to spend more.
But you hit it on the head.
Yeah.
You hit it on the head. I gave you an example a minute ago. The same Mercedes mechanic, right? If he does the work at Mercedes, you pay this. If he does it in your yard, you pay this. Anybody who says I'll give him the same because no. If you're the Mercedes guy and you call me to the side of the dealership and you say, hey, I can come do this at your house. If I agree, I am expecting a discount. I would be a fool to pay you the same amount in that environment because it's no longer the same experience. I don't have the same guarantees. You don't have access to the same resources. I know you're the same guy, but it's just the service is worth less then. That's what people have to understand if you want to scale and you want to grow. That's the difference between just an entrepreneur trying to kind of make ends meet to somebody who want to scale a full-size business. And by the way, my definition of a business may be different than some other people. My definition of a business is something that is sellable and willable. I repeat.
There it is.
Something that you can sell and something that can be willed to your children. A human being cannot be sold and he cannot be willed. So if you are your business, it does not operate without you. In my opinion, it's not a true business because nobody could buy it and you can't leave it to your kids. When I'm gone, it stops. Nobody, you know what I mean? So that's the
100%.
And to build that, it just takes a different way of thinking.
I love that. I love that. You're thinking about your kids. You're thinking long term. You know, you're studying. You're calculated. You're really well thought out, and you think it through. I think that's something I've learned about you because we met at a dealer conference in I think we said March, right?
Yep.
That's when we went for the first time.
Yeah, dealer conference.
Because you went to Mike's shop first, got some hands-on training there. You got, amazing feedback on that too, because I know that Mike had some pretty big breakthrough moments with you. But then I seen you at the dealer conference. We had a great conversation, and right away I was like, man, this guy, who is this guy? I remember I was asking. I was like, what have you done before? And I started asking about your past, and I'm not surprised that you're an accomplished man. But part of that being so precise is you also ask for feedback. You're a student, right? We were talking earlier about that aspect of you're focused. You're focused. You really think it through. Can you talk a little bit about why you're really just focusing on tint still, and you're not taking the shiny objects? I thought that was such a good conversation. I had to stop you, right? I was like, let's stop it. Let's save it for the interview. But let's talk about that because there's so many entrepreneurs in our industry that they see the shiny object. They see that other customer that comes to them and says, hey, can you just can you do this extra stuff? Can you do my calipers? Can you paint my calipers? Can you actually go and get, let me get some paint protection film installed. When you are a tint shop, like 80% of your revenue is tint, and then you go and accept this massive project that you're going to fumble on. It's not if, but you're going to fumble on. Why do you say no to that big ticket customer? Why would you say no to that? I mean, not to say you don't do PPF because you do, right. But why do you focus so much on the one instead of trying to entertain the other cash flow opportunity? The money's right there.
Right. Well, because I've just learned from being in business for a very long time that you've heard the term, what is it? Jack of all trade, master of none. All right. Basically, what that is saying is this, right? You take a guy, and I like using analogies, and I'll stick with the same one I was talking about a mechanic earlier, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say this mechanic, he doesn't only work at the Mercedes dealership, he does lawn service, he's a plumber, he paints, he does, 5 or 6 other things. Does that make him better in any of those individual things? Or in your mind, are you thinking, I'm not sure about this guy? Just think about it from a customer's perspective. Or would you rather hire a guy to put your pool in your home who focused on pools, or a guy who happened to do pools, but he also is a mechanic, he does tattoos, and he's in real estate? When you get that person's business card and it has all those things on it, how do you feel as a customer? Mm-hmm. You know the feeling, right? So that's how your customers feel when you do all of those things, right? And the flip side of it, as the business owner, it simply makes your job harder. Here's what happens, and here's how people fall into that trap. People are trying to make a certain amount of money, right? Mm-hmm. And let's just say, whatever that is, let's say they're trying to get to $100,000, and they're doing tint, and they're making $50,000 selling tint, right? So in whatever they're doing, not working, and they're like, well, maybe if I did PPF, I can make it up, or if I did something else. I disagree with that thinking. I say you have to maximize what you're already working on. You can get to $100,000 in 10.
Exactly.
You know what blows a lot of people around, blows a lot of folks' minds as regards to our shop. You know, like I say, we did over $1 million our first year in business. Do you realize that's about 98% automotive tint? 98%. 98. That first year was 98%. The first whole meal was automotive tint.
Did you even do PPF? Did you even entertain it the first year?
Not at all.
Wow.
Not at all, right? And let me tell you why. Because there was so much room to grow with automotive. You don't go to another service until you have maximized that first service. And when I say maximize it, you've successfully gotten everything you can get out of the market. Not because you're failing at it. Now, like I told you, we did a million in our market, right? So let's say I was only doing 50,000. I could have said, well, I've only maxed it out. No, I didn't max it out. I just wasn't doing a good job marketing. I didn't get it. When I say max it out, it's just no more customers, no more room, no more installers.
Right.
That's when you go to another service. Because if you jump and you do that early, all you do is you dilute your strengths. Because, okay, if I got a shop, my shop, the reason that we were so effective with automotive window tint is because it is designed for automotive tint. Peel boards where they need to be, water purification system, plotters tuned, everything, shopper system. Man, they can move cars in and out like no other. But when you slap PPF right in the middle of that, that's kind of like the lady writing a check in the grocery line. It stops everything, right? Because that's a different process. And if you slap car stereo installation in the middle of that, so you think you're getting more money, but no. You're basically just taking your money that you could have been making it on tint, trying to do something else that's harder because it doesn't fit the system. So I say maximize the services, then you look to other services that don't affect the money that you're making on this other one. So if you're doing $200,000 in tint, and then you add PPF, that 200,000 should go down. Because if that 200,000 goes to 100, and then you do 100 in PPF, you just complicated your life for the same money.
Man,
you see what I mean? Why do I want to make 200 grand doing PPF and tint? If I was just doing the 200, it's not worth it. It needs to double or triple. It needs to increase it. If you're making the same amount of money doing 10 different things, wouldn't you rather be doing one?
Drop the mic moment. No, this really resonates with me. It resonates so much with me because whenever I have a marketing consultation, whenever I'm talking with a new partner, most of the time it's a new partner, they come, when I say partner, I mean client, but whenever a new client comes aboard and I talk with them about marketing, it's very often, they come up and say, well, Ray, I want to do ceramic coatings, PPF, window tint, color change. Oh, I'm thinking about getting a flat glass. And they want to advertise all these different services, and they're not even a $1 million company yet, which is fine, right? But it's that focus. I always say, like, what's the one campaign that we could work on that's going to make the biggest impact in the shortest period of time? And that's because that focus will get you to your first $1 million. And I find that people, they don't see it. They don't see it's a lack of knowledge. They don't know that they're supposed to focus on the one thing, and that's a more scalable approach. Everything throughout your department now is trained on that one thing. Your sales team just pitches window tint. They become world class at it. Your marketing team just advertises window tint. They become world class. Your installers, windows don't have that many variations. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's the same type of situation. So they get world class at that, and your whole operation gets world class at the one thing instead of, they constantly have to start and stop. You have to constantly troubleshoot, and it's just. Yes, it can be done. There's people out there that have done it, but it takes so much more time. Again, you're proof of that, right? You've done it. You've built $1 million company in a year. You've done that, and you focused on the one thing. I can't believe you said 98% of your revenue was window tint, just window tint in your first year.
Just window tint.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and to what you said, Mike, think about this, right? So, and things from a customer's perspective, right? I was telling you about the pool guy. This guy who focuses on pools and he builds the most awesome pools, everybody loves them.
Right.
Are you going to pay him more, or are you going to pay the guy with 50 things on his business card? Because it's like, who's the expert? Who's the guy who's saying, hey, I don't do landscaping, I don't do this, but I will build you the best pool, the most efficient. It's going to be the best one you ever seen in your life, but I'm not cheap. You'll pay that guy.
100%.
But this other guy, okay, you may end up paying the same thing, but you're getting 10 services. He's giving you the pool, the deck, the landscape, and everything for the same price, and he's working 10 times as hard. It doesn't make sense.
A lot of time, what I come to find out when you're talking with the business owner, they're stuck. They're trying to get to their first $100,000 a month, or they're just trying to get to their first 7-figure year, for example. A lot of time they lack the focus, or they lack the skill to then stop doing what they're doing, so they can focus on the one thing, or maybe the two things, right? Maybe two things that are generating most of their revenue for them. So how are you able to stop and get away from the sales process or get away from the window tint process. By the way, let me ask you, how long did you window tint for? How long did you install tint before you were able to step away? I know the answer. I want to know.
About 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
About 2
So
weeks.
you're telling me you installed for 2 weeks. So you're saying you didn't have to learn how to tint, or you didn't have to actually install tint to build a tint business?
No. And let me tell you,
I know some people are going to get upset about that.
Here is one thing that people have to realize. To be successful, the only difference between a successful person and an unsuccessful person is a successful person is willing to do things that unsuccessful people are not willing to do, right? That's one. Two, you got to be careful who you listen to. You got to be careful who you take advice from. You got to look at the person who's giving you advice on how to build something. You have to look at their result, right?
Right.
So if they have the result that you want, then maybe they can help you, right? But if they don't, maybe they can't. So there were very few people that I was able to have advise me that had built 7-figure shops, right? Mm-hmm. So most of the people that I talked to were kind of smaller shops. So I had to take everything that they said, with a grain of salt. So everybody told me that I needed to learn to tint. And their reasoning behind that, they were saying, well, Keith, if you can't find anybody, you can always count on yourself, and nobody's going to work for you if you don't know how to tint with them. So I mistakenly, early on, I kind of listened to that, and I started to learn to tint along with my guys. But here's what I quickly found out. Everything that you see, everything that you're giving me credit for, you're saying, hey, Keith, the design, the branding, all of that stuff. I realized I didn't have any time to do it. I didn't have any time to build a business. Either I could be a tinter or I could build a business, but I could not do both. I got a lot of talents, and I tell my kids this all the time. You maybe can do this, you can do this, you can do that, but you can't do everything at the same time. So I had to make up my mind, and I realized I don't have to tint to own a tent shop, because most true business owners are not the ones doing the actual work. And a lot of people see that as a negative, or maybe installers say, well, I don't want a guy who doesn't get his hand dirty with me. I get my hands real dirty. When my guys go home at the end of the day, I'm still working. I'm working the wee hours of the morning, but I'm working on not putting film on cars. I'm working on where your next car is going to come for, how I'm going to keep you guys busy, what kind of 401k, what kind of insurance plan I'm going to set up for you, how I'm going to do this next shop. I always tell my guys this is how I keep my guys motivated in the shop. I say, hey, if I'm in here right beside you working, you ought to worry.
Yeah.
That means things are going really bad. If it's so bad that I'm in the shop right next to you working, it's not going good. I need to be out doing things, making sure you guys are going to be taken care of. When this car gets out, another one's going to come in right behind it.
Working on the business, not in the business.
Absolutely.
So where did that, how long did it take you to find those installers? How were you able to find those installers without yourself being an installer?
Well, and I'll talk, and I'm not actually going to talk about this at the conference. I'll tell you that journey. So some of the things that I'm telling you now, again, some things had to be figured out, trial and error. This is one thing that I immediately noticed when I started looking into the tint industry. There is not a pipeline of qualified installers. I think every tint shop owner experienced the same thing. You go on the forums. Where do you find these people? See, if you were an auto body shop, you know where to find people. They have trade schools in every city that teach mechanics. They teach plumbers, HVAC. These schools training people for 6 months, a year, and they piping them out. And when those guys come out of those schools, they're ready to go work for Ray's Heating and Air Company. He can do a pretty good job. When that mechanic comes out, he can do a good job. That does not exist in tint, right? We have some classes. 3 days? Just imagine a mechanic working on your car that's been to a 3-day mechanic class.
Yeah.
It's funny, right? Same thing with HVAC, but we do that in tint, right? We have a 3-day class. Here is a 3-day mechanic class. You come in here and I got socket wrenches over here. I show you what oil is, and I give you the basics. You know something. You can change a tire, but you should not be rebuilding a transmission, right? Well, I learned pretty quickly in tint that there was no pipeline of qualified folks. So the only way that you can find tinters is, and literally, and this is the other thing that's going to blow your mind. Tinters don't hang out in the normal place that you find employees. They're not on Indeed. They're not on Monster.com.
ZipRecruiter.
ZipRecruiter. Every other trade, people are there. Mechanics are there. HVAC is there. Tinters are not there. You just got to find them. Facebook, Instagram, random posts. And you got people from around the world saying, yeah, I can tint, you know. And so then when you get them in, you realize half of these people have never had any structure. What I mean by structure? Well, they travel around the country, walk into a place and say, hey, I can tint. Guy said, okay, show me you can tint. The guy starts tinting without getting a full name. He said, okay, you got a job. I give you $50 every time you do a car. And the guy starts working.
There it is.
And he'll do that for a couple weeks. Then it gets slow. Guy lay him off. He'll move on and on. So when that type of person comes into my environment, we immediately clash. Because I'm talking to this guy and I ask him questions. I say, hey, Ray, what kind of salary are you looking for? And he tells me, well, I usually get $50 a car. All right, that ain't a salary, but I mean, on a yearly basis, how much do you make? Honestly, most tinters won't even answer the question. They can't even give you a number. So, but here's what you got to understand. When you're interviewing for employment, when you're going into a career, isn't it based on a yearly? Like, you know, hey,
absolutely.
this is what I'm going to get paid a year. These are going to be my benefits. So they can't answer those questions, right? And I try to dig, and it's always on some type of per car, per commission basis, and all these structures, for the most part, they're flawed. But when they come into my shop, with that type of thinking, I can't really help them understand what it is I'm trying to do. And this is what I'm trying to do. Hey, I'm not sure about the per car or this, or working in the summer, not in the winter type thing, but here's what I'm going to do. I'll give you stability, right? You know, here's what I've looked at other trades. I know what auto mechanics make. I know what HVAC guys make. Hey, man, I can give you a salary that's way above what them guys have. You know what I mean?
So and you're investing in your people. So you set them up to where you got someone who's willing to work hard, got a good attitude, and then you're setting them up to where, look, I'm going to make sure you're busy. You're never going to have to worry about leads, customers coming in, your paycheck. So you're making sure they're set up, they're comfortable. You talked about benefits earlier.
Yeah.
Like that relationship there, that's what that comes out inside the quality of the work, that it comes out in the company's atmosphere. Like, how do you feel, how important do you think it is to really come in and set that expectation from day one? And what expectations do you set for them? Like, what do you do in the first?
You have to set it, and the issue is this, and this is what I was saying. I was never able really to get that to compute with a lot of folks who have been floating around in this industry, because it's been done so different.
Right.
They haven't had stability.
There's no structure.
There's no structure. So when I start talking about things like that, it's like I'm speaking a foreign language. So what I had to do was we started training our own people in-house. So we would take someone who's been working, I don't know, they could have been in landscaping, they could have been working at a warehouse, they could have been a mechanic, and they was looking, but they've been involved in positions where they've had structure,
right?
Where they know what to look for in that. And then when we show them what we have to offer in this, after them being trained and learning it, then those people become the best employees that you ever had.
How many people did you have to interview? How many people did you go through to find one good hire?
It's not a numbers game. Because here's what I will tell you. If you take away experience, there's no limit of people who want to get in this industry. See, the problem that people are having is they're trying to find experienced tinters, people who can come in and start laying film right away. That's where you struggle at. But when you take that away, you get too many applicants. When you say, hey, I have one of the nicest shops in the area, we're doing 25 cars a day,
right.
Hey, how would you like to learn to come put film on it? You get bombarded, right? And you don't have time to go through all of them. So it's not a matter of finding the perfect one. It's you deciding who you want to invest into. Because the flip side of it is you're going to have to invest in this guy. He can't tint from day one. He will be loyal. He will show up. He will be on time. He will not have most of the issues, but the one thing he can't do, he can't tint. That's where you got to come in. So you got to decide who you're going to invest in. I
love what you're saying there. The word invest. Leaders invest in their people. Leaders invest in their people to develop them, right? I find that a lot of people come in, they'll hire somebody, they'll come into this industry, they've been in this industry for a long time, they'll hire somebody, and they just they'll talk to him for about a week or two, and they kind of expect them to figure it out. They expect them to get plop in the shop, and they're going to know how everything is supposed to run. They're going to know the good, the bad, the uglies, right? And I've just never been able to operate that way. I'm interested to see how closely you work with them and how much time. But personally, for me, I give a 90-day plan. If I'm hiring, especially if I'm hiring an account executive or a management level position, I tell them, look, the first 90 days is training for you.
Absolutely.
Right? You're going to go, here's week 1's training. We're going to do this. I just need you to know this, master this one thing on week 1. Week 2, it's all about this one thing. Week 3, it's one thing. 4, it's one thing. By the end of that month, you should have this done. Is that fair? Right? You prep them. You get them ready for it. Now, I have a much more technical job. Right? Mine's marketing, mine is sales training, mine's that kind of stuff. So it's on a MacBook. It's on Zoom. Like I go through 5 Zoom calls a day. Like it's crazy some days. Some days it's like 7 or 8. Do the math there. Each Zoom call is an hour. You got to condense those hours. But anyways, going back to what I was going to say, like what expectations? Like how much time do you invest? How do you know what to invest when you get that new hire?
Well, you actually just said it, and going back to earlier in the conversation where we was talking about what services you offer, and we were talking about some people, instead of just honing in, getting that one service where it needs to be, they start doing all these different things. Same thing with training an individual. You break it down into steps. And once you accomplish this step, you go to the next step. That's when the only time you go. If you don't master step 1, there is no step 2. That's my problem with 3-day Tint classes, because you go here and do this, you do this, you do it. You don't master anything. They just get you all the way through and send you out. You are not good at any of the steps because you didn't spend enough time. So the investment is you have to spend the time at each step. Step 1, how do you take a roll of film out the box without it falling on the floor and get it wrinkled up?
There it is.
And you may spend 2 days doing that right.
And why is it important to not get it wrinkled?
Because it's ruined.
Why do you store it the way you store it, right? It's like those simple questions. They come in, they expect them to know everything. But here's the thing, too. There's so many bad habits. If someone does have experience, and, I've never hired a tinner before. So I get my knowledge from you. I get my knowledge from the pros in the industry, right? And, if you hire a tinner, word on the street is they have so many bad habits. Well, don't you want to invest some time in that new hire to find out what those bad habits are before they reveal themselves? Like before it actually creates a massive problem?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. One thing about it, Ray, I'm going to always be honest, and I'm going to correct you on some things. For one, I have not found the solution to the problem that you just described, because you're absolutely right.
Right.
Tinners, when I say tinners, people who have been involved in this industry in what I like to call the wild, wild west. The tint industry, it is not like, and I keep using these auto mechanics, HV, tint is a trade. I don't care what people want to say. It is a trade.
It is a trade. I agree with you. Oh, yeah.
Auto mechanics is a trade. HVAC. Those trades are a lot more organized than this one. So when I say I have not found a solution to the problem, because tinners have been working at these shops where everybody's just kind of all over the place, I have not personally figured out how to reprogram them people myself. So my solution has been to not try to. I start with clean slates.
That's fair.
If I were to figure that out, I maybe at another time, a couple years down the road, I say, hey, Mike, I got the solution on how to reprogram those guys. I don't. I just don't hire them anymore.
And that's a growing mindset. I've heard, I think that you articulated that much better, right? There's some people who are a little bit, we can't post that stuff, right? The way that they explain it. But that's a growing mindset, especially with the top performers in our industry, the record breakers like yourself, right? Yep. They just say, I'm opting out. I'm just going to remove the option off the table. I'm just going to find a new guy.
Here's what I share with people, though. It is amazing the result you'll get. See, if you take a guy, clean-cut guy who's motivated, hard worker, who's going to show up on time, and you spend the time to work with him, teach him the way you want things to be done. It is painful. It costs you a lot of money. It is a horrendous process. But when you get to the other side, man, I got some 1-year, 2-year tinners that will tint circles around 20-year guys. Their quality control, their attention to detail, it is out of this world. Why? Because it's the only thing they know. They don't know. They don't know how to do it wrong. They've only been taught how to do it right. That's the investment that you have to make. And
there it is. Input equals output. You know, the quality of input you put into that new person is directly equal to the output that you're going to get. And I think it's incredibly true in the first 90 days. You know, I'm at a marketing conference in Orlando. Mm-hmm. I flew in just today to, I got to see the operation, man. I'm on the East Coast. I live in California. I got to come and see the operation. Got to see you again. And this has been great. I mean, we've been talking nonstop ever since I've got here, on camera, off camera. But, you know, part of the reason why I bring up the conference is because yesterday I seen a best-selling author. He wrote Jocko Willink. He wrote Extreme Ownership. Mm-hmm. Amazing book. Highly recommend it. And when he was on stage, he said something that was in the book, and he said, if you are training somebody, or if you have a subordinate, because he's a Marine guy. He's like real tough. He got everybody fired up in that whole room. There's like 5,000-6,000 people in this amazing conference in Orlando. And you know, he gets everybody all fired up, and he says, if you're teaching somebody, if you're training someone, and they're brand new especially, he goes, if they don't understand something, that's your fault.
Your fault.
That's your fault. You didn't make it simple enough.
Right.
You didn't make it simple enough. You didn't prepare them enough. And he said, listen, he's talking about this simulated gun battle that they had, and he said, you know, Sniper, I'm sorry, because the sniper didn't check in and tell him where he was at. He goes, you know, I'm sorry. I lost track of you. Instead of like saying, why didn't you check in with me? I'm sorry. I lost track of you. There was another guy that came in. He goes, you know what? I'm going to spend 30 seconds with you before you go out next time and show you the map. It's that switch, right? Especially in the beginning. So on that topic of leadership, what is your opinion on leadership? How do you feel about leadership? What do you think the role of a business owner is in the realm of leadership?
Just what you said, man. He's the guy that makes sure everybody's taken care of. I'm thinking about it. I'm the guy making sure that you have work tomorrow. I'm the guy making sure that you advance in your career. I ask questions of my guys every single day. Man, tell me what you want. What motivates you? Because you'd be surprised. People are motivated by different things.
Oh,
everybody thinks it's money. Some people are money motivated, but other guys aren't. Some people want freedom, time off with their family. You know what I mean? Recognition. So a good leader, he has to find out what it is that moves his troops. All right, and once you know that, you try to put them in the best possible situation for them to accomplish their goals, not your goals.
You push them in the direction they want to go.
You're right.
A leader finds out who their people are.
Because if you are helping your staff accomplish their goals, that's how you accomplish your goals. Because if you're only focused on your personal goals and you're having total disregard for them, it's going to derail at some point. People are going to walk out on you and everything's just going to crash. But if you focus on them as a byproduct of that, that's how you get what you want. How do I get what I want? I help enough other people get what they want.
That's exciting. That's exciting. Because now all the arrows in the organization, all the people are pointing in the same direction. Everybody has the same vision. Everybody has a similar goal. You're creating that win-win situation between everybody. Yep. Between me and you, between the employer and the owner. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, we both found a win-win situation. We're going to do this? All right, cool. We're going to do this. Let's do it together.
Yep.
You know, it creates a whole different culture. And, you know, I'll say something about your culture, too, that not only is the shop just perfect, the shop is extremely clean, very organized, but everyone's head down getting shit done. Mm-hmm. It seems like everybody's really well presented, well dressed. So again, it increases that perceived value. Going back to the branding we were talking about earlier, it's impressive. It's impressive. If anybody's in Georgia, stop by Tint Genius. Hunt this man down. Ask him questions.
All that's by design, man. We have a handbook that details everything that we're asking guys to do. Things like, hey, when you're on your phone, when you shouldn't be on your phone. We got cars in the shop. Everybody should be focused on getting this stuff out of the shop. Once it's out the phone, hey, we don't care. Get on your phone. I got TVs on the wall that has cable.
With no one watching it. Yeah. They were working.
Exactly. You asked me about the dartboard. Keith, when did y'all have time to play darts? Okay, if they get ahead of schedule, they get cars out, they play darts. Do whatever you want, right? But stay focused on the task and the goal at hand, because that's what I have taught them. And that is the culture that we created. And they bought into the fact that, hey, if you do these things, this is how you're going to get what you want.
You know, I can't I'm super excited. I was excited for you to speak on stage before I came today. I'm 10 times more excited, 100 times more excited for you to speak on stage now that I'm actually here and we've had all these conversations. Are you ready? You ready for the conference?
Hey man, listen. It's not about getting ready because the only thing I'm bringing to the conference is I'm gonna bring myself. This isn't something that I gotta study with. To be honest with you, I think you've asked me a couple times, hey Keith, you got your presentation? But I'm gonna write it down for your benefit. But most of this stuff, man, it just coming off the top. It's just me. It's just who I am. It's things that I've learned from years and years of being mentored, years and years of investing in myself. That's why it's important that people come out to conferences like this. I'm a big believer of investing in myself and my training, my learning, my education. A lot of things that you invest in, you may not agree with everything, but there's always nuggets. And you take all those nuggets.
Big time.
And that's how you...
One idea away. You're one idea away.
So I'm really excited, man. I'm going to share with... I'm just going to basically share with everybody, I think, with something, I call it a different perspective. When I say a different perspective, a lot of what I've done with Tint Gens is not what I was advised to do by a lot of people that I paid. I mean, some of these folks that I had coming to my shop, I paid lots of money for them to consult me, to come in for me only to listen and be like, nah, I'm definitely not going to do that. Not going to do that, right? So I'm just going to share with folks just another way of thinking, that if you want to have very fast growth, very fast success, and be able to scale a company quickly, it's the only way that you can think. And you got to stop listening to folks who have not done that. Nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. If you say, hey, Keith, I'm not really trying to do all that. Because I get people say, well, I don't want to have any employees. Well, you don't want to have a business.
Yeah.
Stop saying that. There is no business. There isn't a business without employees. Because that means you are the business. You get it? If you have no employees, you don't have a business. You are the business. You cannot be sold. You can't be willed. If you drop dead, there is nothing for your kids. That's not a business. That's you. So if you want a business, certain things you got to figure out. You got to figure out how to hire people. You got to figure out how to grow a team. You got to figure out how to scale. That's what I'm going to be bringing to the table for the people who want that.
Cool.
If you don't want that, and if you're okay with, being your basically, you're your own business, or you're your own boss, but you're not trying to scale, then this information probably not for you. But if you want to scale, you want to grow, you want to build a successful team, you want to have multiple locations, we're all for that.
No, I'm not worried about the people that are going to be in the room at the conference. They're there to grow. They're there for that breakthrough thought. They're there to get past their limitations. They're coming open-minded. That's one of the best things I love about the conference that we put on. People go there open-minded to grow, to soak up that knowledge and get that knowledge. If you haven't got your tickets yet, get your tickets. By the time they watch this, it'll be less than 30 days away.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be awesome. I didn't make the one last year, but this one, I already know.
That's okay. I came here to make sure you're going, No, I didn't. But I'm so excited, and I think the people are going to they need to hear what you're going to say. They're going to love what you say, and especially the people who are going to go to that conference. I mean, they're going to be open-minded, like I said. That's where the breakthrough moments happen. You got to learn from people who are just ahead of you in the game. If you don't, you stop learning. If you think you know it all, you're pretty much done, because guess what? All the new guys, there's people jumping in this industry all the time. Year 1 guys, year 2 guys, they're constantly trying to catch up to the year 10 guy. If year 10 guy has a fat belly and he's complacent, either you're growing or you're declining.
Absolutely.
That's pretty much how it is. But man, any message for the AutoFM Mastery community? Any last minute thoughts about the conference?
Well, hey, listen. Again, I invested a whole lot in a short period of time, because I didn't have that tent experience. I had to invest in a lot of knowledge. So I reached out to a lot of different folks.
And paid off.
And consultants and things like that. One thing I will say, you guys' organization, AutoFM Mastery, some of the things that you're doing with Mike Nord, with his shops, your information is presented, in my opinion, is first class. It is first. When I say first class, it is actual stuff that can be used, that can be applied and you can have immediate results. It's not like a lot of stuff that's being presented in the industry is a money grab. And what I define as a money grab is this is just a way for somebody to make money. Hey, come out here, take this. We'll take $2,000-$3,000 for you, and you go back home and you figure it out on your own. Auto film mastery, I'll be honest with you. This TV here in the shop, we do PPF in this area. I'm in the forgot what it's called, the PPF course where you do the live library.
Our installer's library.
Our installer's library. That's what it is. It's on. That's why this TV is here, man. If we have a tough car, we have a tough car in here we hadn't seen. You go to the installer library instead of going on YouTube and seeing different folks. And one thing I like about Mike's and the installer's library is Mike taught me a whole lot. I use his methods. I use the hot water. You know what I mean? I even got his squeegee, so it resonates with me when I see it. Right? So that's the one thing I say that you got to go the real deal, the way you present the information. It'll definitely be beneficial, and it's definitely worth the price of admission. You guys are kind of giving that away, so I would definitely recommend folks to be there.
You're contributing, man. You're contributing. I can't wait for them to see what you got to say.
Yeah,
I appreciate you, Keith.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate you, brother. That's a cut. 1202.